Ka whati ko te tai, ka pau te toria. As the tide recedes, we must provide opportunities to explore new paths to move forward. Thank you, Tim, and kia ora koutou katoa to Voices delegates from around the APEC region and to others following today's event online. Thank you for joining us here in New Zealand for APEC Leaders Week. And thank you all for the declaration you have worked so hard on over the last few days. Voices of the Future is one of several events which New Zealand is hosting online this week to conclude our APEC host year, and one I've been very much looking forward to. Last night, the New Zealand Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Trade hosted their counterparts from around the region for the annual APEC ministerial meeting. This Friday, I'll be hosting a meeting of APEC leaders for our annual gathering. I wish to host all of them and all of you here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, so we could show you our rolling mountains, our green pastures where, of course, the hobbits live, our sparkling seas, and to show you that we don't have quite as many sheep as you've been told. But COVID-19 keeps us all united instead in virtual ways. Regardless, I do hope you feel the warmth of our manaakitanga, our hospitality, and how important you are to APEC. The global pandemic has made life difficult, but it has also opened doors. And I'm pleased to see that Voices of the Future has attracted a wide online audience, making it the largest Voices event ever. Long may that continue. And not for the sake of mere participation, but for the sake of change. For New Zealand, inclusion is one of our priorities, and this means ensuring young people also have a voice in APEC 2021. I actually had my own brief encounter as a young person in international diplomacy. My first APEC meeting was not as Prime Minister of New Zealand, but as a youth delegate to an APEC science festival in Korea. I was roughly 17 years old. I never knew as a young person living in a town of just 5,000 people in rural New Zealand that such a conference existed. And it opened my eyes to completely new cultures and experiences. Later on, as president of an international youth organisation, I saw firsthand in places like the Middle East and elsewhere why it is important for young people to have a voice on global issues. As a result, I've always believed that if young people can model change, we can and should realise it. This year, New Zealand's chairing of APEC has been driven by the unprecedented global challenge of COVID-19. APEC is responding to that challenge. We've helped to make the trade of vaccines that matter to so many people around the region much easier. We've underlined the crucial importance of free trade and keeping our markets open to one another to accelerate our economic recovery from the pandemic. And we're reaffirming the crucial importance of APEC and the role it can play in supporting a resilient recovery in the Asia-Pacific region that is more inclusive, sustainable, and digitally driven. Because when we're stronger when we work together in cooperation, rather than alone in isolation. This is in line with APEC's long-term agenda, contained in the Putrajaya vision which APEC leaders agreed last year and which we will elaborate on through an implementation plan this year. Many of the issues which the vision covers are part of your agenda here at Voices of the Future. In the area of digital technologies, for example, we must find ways to ensure the opportunities are shared widely and benefit society as a whole. We must also respond decisively to the ongoing and worsening crisis that is climate change. We want APEC to play an effective role here by promoting measures like an end to government subsidies for fossil fuels that can help us reach sustainability goals. And we also need to ensure that the recovery benefits all. The place of Māori in New Zealand means that policies to promote the economic inclusion of Indigenous peoples have been a particular focus for us this year as chair of APEC. The declaration you have provided me today shows that these are all big issues that matter to you too. I want to acknowledge here that COVID has also had a significant impact on young people in terms of education, employment, and mental health and well-being. Here in New Zealand, we've taken initiatives and steps to ensure that rangatahi, or young people, have a say in decisions about recovery and take leadership roles and are able to drive transformative change. For example, each year the government funds youth engagement campaigns across a range of digital media channels so our young people can have proper conversations with decision makers about the issues that matter to them, such as climate change. Youth Declaration also underlines the importance to young people around the region of being involved in decisions that affect them. Ultimately, policies that APEC members adopt matter. APEC members make up 37% of the world's population, almost half of its trade, and around 60% of its GDP. It is a place where our region works together for a better, more cooperative future for our people in the region. That makes it important that our discussions at APEC involve everyone, especially young people. You've reminded me, reminded us all, that we must always look forward and make decisions not with the next generation in mind, but with the next generation at the centre. Because what generation has a greater stake in the decisions of today than the generation of tomorrow? Indeed, yours. So thank you for ensuring your voices are heard with the declaration you've handed to me today. I will read it with enthusiasm, knowing that it is the voice of young people from right around the APEC region, and that as such, it will be diverse, inclusive, insightful, and creative. I will also encourage other APEC leaders to be responsive to the interests and concerns of young people throughout our region. I'm sure that they'll be interested to read this declaration too. And can I finish with a personal commitment? We are listening. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa, and thank you.